Space, the final frontier.
Everything old is new again. This is Douglas Viviani, your host, along with the ever-present David Cohen, co-host of the most talked about new radio program on Long Island News, Radio 103.9. What's old is new again. Today we're going to discuss science fiction and more particularly Star Trek versus Lost in Space.
Oh, that is a hot topic.
Just as a slight history lesson, science fiction goes back to cave dwellings in India. There was, believe it or not, there were pictures of aliens riding in the chariots of fire, if you will, back then. And through the creation of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, through, of course, H.G. Wells and Vernon and Jules Verne.
And Vernon Wells.
And Vernon Wells. We've had science fiction through the years. Well, I want to examine a little bit Star Trek, its meaning, and its place in science fiction, juxtaposed to Lost in Space. Both shows created in the 1960s, and quite frankly, if you weren't a fan of one in the 60s, you were a fan of one of the others. Both of them still alive and well today. There was a kind of recent Lost in Space movie. They did a pilot recently, I think it was 3-4 years ago, that didn't sell.
No.
Tried to get a series going for that. And of course, we know Star Trek goes on and on and on and on. For what reason? Do we know?
It is really boldly gone where no one has gone before.
Yes, 5 series, a cartoon, comic books, a huge convention in Las Vegas, which happens every year.
Which you're going to, right?
I'll be there in August. I may bring a excuse me, a bag to put over my head so people don't recognize who I am. But I will.
Come on, you all know each other. Once you're in the convention, it's, hi, Doug, how you doing?
It is. And you know what's funny? As an aside, people make fun and they talk about people getting dressed up for a convention or whatever. How about going to a football game and wearing a jersey of one of the players?
Yeah, not the same.
Yeah, well, okay. That's the big thing that's talked about at the conventions. And it goes over big. I mean, there's a standing ovation for that comment.
What happens at the Star Trek convention, right? Stays.
Especially because it's in
Thank
Vegas.
Goodness.
Of course, yes. All those pointy ears and those Klingon karaoke.
Klingon karaoke.
All right. They stay right there. It's a lot of
see
fun.
what we're missing? Yeah.
And
back to the topic.
Back to the topic at hand. I enjoyed both. I stand behind both. I have a lot of fun looking back at them. But quite frankly, Star Trek is a serious sci-fi to me, if you will. And while Lost in Space started as a serious sci-fi, it's certainly with the advent of Dr. Smith, it turned to more of a character or
right.
A comic.
I agree with that, and I think that Lost in Space, unfortunately, was a great premise, and it got off to a great start. And in the first season, which was all black and white, by the way, and I don't know, do we need to go into the premise of Lost in Space for those people out there who might know?
It's a family that gets in a spaceship and gets lost in space.
But it's based on Swiss Family Robinson,
yes.
Right? They hand-selected this family because there was no more room on Earth to go up to this fictitious Alpha Centauri planet and start a new planet, basically a new world. So the premise was great, and the Dr. Smith character was this evil spy from another country who was plotting to blow up that spacecraft because it was American, I guess, and he got locked into the ship and realized that he couldn't blow it up thereafter, and hijinks unfortunately ensued. It wasn't supposed to, and season 2 and 3 got campier and campier. I think Batman had a lot to do with that.
Yes,
camp became very popular, and also, I think that with the advent of Star Trek, which I think came out the year after Lost in Space. And I think Gene Roddenberry said it too, that the network said they weren't ready. They didn't think the public was ready for a real heady kind of science fiction story. I think Irwin Allen and the whole Lost in Space crew said, well, they certainly won't be ready for 2 of them then. And I think it just went down a really silly path.
Yes, and as an aside, 2 things. Star Trek was presented as, if you remember this show, Wagon Train to the Stars, which basically was a wagon train of cowboys with adventures as they traveled from one part of the country to another. And it was supposed to be, and what turned out to be, a serious discussion of issues of the day, including the Vietnam War and prejudice, where they did an episode of, a character that was half black, half white on one side, let's say half black on the left, half white on the right, and another character that was at war with this character was the exact opposite, and they tried to point out.
And when we say half black, half white, literally half black, half white.
Absolutely. And to them, to these characters, to this civilization, that was the most important thing in the world, and the silliness of being prejudiced based on skin color, if you will, was approached and attacked in that issue beautifully. There weren't really those kind of issues in Lost in Space, and the actor that played Professor Robinson, you'll see him pull back as a character through the years, because he wanted to be Captain Kirk, if you will, and he saw that. He disagreed with what you just said, not that you were incorrect in saying it, but
he didn't like the direction that it was.
No, he wanted it to be a serious episode. He enjoyed the first season, and later on we find out that Dr. Smith and the actor that portrayed him went ahead and created these characteristics that became the foil of the ship, and it took off. And his ad libs against the robot were what created his career and changed the show itself.
Right.
You can take a look at a little something, because we've talked about Dr. Smith, but Star Trek had a Dr. McCoy, and he had some comedy, if you will, or some light characteristics himself. Let's take a listen.
My name is McCoy. I'm a doctor.
What am I, a doctor or a moon shuttle conductor?
I jumped every time a light came on around here. I'd end up talking to myself.
I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer.
You're a healer. There's a patient. That's an order.
I'm a surgeon, not a psychiatrist.
Look, I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand.
I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. I'm a doctor, not an engineer.
No, you're an engineer.
I'm a doctor, not a coal miner.
You keep saying that. Are you a doctor, aren't you?
I don't know.
Now, I think that we can see that there's comedy in both, but
well, there's so many things that Dr. McCoy wasn't. He pointed all of them out to us.
And he was a doctor. Now, Dr. Smith, on the other hand, did he portray himself as a doctor, more or less?
I think the premise was that I don't think he was a medical doctor that cured you. I think he was more of a psychiatrist. I think that was the premise.
The answer from Dr. Smith's mouth.
Okay.
Indeed, I am a doctor of intergalactic environmental psychology.
You are a quack.
So we know
Both true. Both were true.
Both true statements. That second statement came, of course, from the robot.
Yes.
So, I was just rolling this around, just thinking about it, and I was wondering if we want to compare this, we could take a look at Dr. Smith and how he would have dealt with the logical Mr. Spock. So I wonder maybe we could take a look and see what that's all about.
Remove yourself, you bubble-headed booby. This meeting is only for those with human quality.
The fact that my internal arrangement differs from yours, Doctor, pleases me no end.
How dare you laugh at me, you cantankerous, cold-hearted clump?
I'm happy the affair is over. A most annoying, emotional episode.
Away, you cackling clod, and leave me to my work.
Most illogical. Of all people, he should have known how the computer would perform. Of course, the M5 itself has not behaved logically.
As for you, you jabbering Judas, henceforth our friendship is at an end.
Spare me your philosophical metaphors, Doctor.
How dare you?
Well, fascinating is a word I use for the unexpected. In this case, I should think interesting would suffice.
Just you wait, you deplorable dummy.
Just the facts, Doctor.
You can do better than that, you ninny.
Thank you for your opinion. It will be duly noted.
And now, if you'll excuse me, I shall retire. Good night to all, and to all a good night. Bah!
That was great.
So
that was great.
I think that's how they would have interacted with each other.
But come on, it would have ended with a Vulcan neck pinch. There's no way he would have put up with that.
The killer is, I think Dr. Smith would have ended up in the brig probably more often than not, no?
That would have killed him. They definitely would have killed that guy.
And Spock would certainly have lost his cool and shown a little more emotion with the aggravation that Smith would provide to the Starship Enterprise.
Thank goodness they were separated. That's
Yes.
all. That's all I can say on that topic.
Wisdom of the TV executives. You're listening to What's Old. I'm sorry, Everything Old is New Again. You can communicate with us to our website, or I should say to our email at oldnewagain@aol.com. Come on back. We're talking more about Star Trek and Lost in Space on Long Island News Radio 103.9 FM.